Hey writers, welcome back to my channel where we are unpacking the hero's journey. Last time we looked at the 12 mandatory scenes you've got to have in the hero's journey, and now we're going to dig deep into those characters. I'm so excited, so let's roll those intros.
What if I told you that you have all the tools you need to write a great story, and these tools were not limiting, but freeing? Join me as we unpack our writer's toolbox and find your story the way you want to tell it, one tool at a time.
All right, so there are 8 characters in a hero's journey. Just 8. Just 8. Who among you, myself included, jam-packs your story with full of characters? You only need 8, and just these 8 characters will tell a complete story. So I'm going to give you a quick overview and hit that subscribe button if you want to hear more, because next week specifically we're going to dig deep into the mentor, and then we're going to look at the allies and so on and so forth. So this is an overview, and from next week on we're going to dig deep, just like we did with the hero. We're going to dig deep in the others. So hit that like and subscribe button. All right, let's go. So, number 1, you know who it is. It's your hero. Now, we have already looked so much into hero. We looked at the tragic and the classic and the epic and the every and the super. We looked into all of those. So I know you know what's going on. If you've missed that, get up there and go back and watch those videos because they're really great. But the hero is our way through the story, and as an example for all of these, I'm going to be looking at Encanto, which is beautiful, has beautiful characterizations and goes deep into these characters. And we have a little more than 8 characters, so some of them are playing double roles, but I still think this is a great example of characters in the hero's journey. So let's get started. Our hero is Mirabel. She is the hero on the journey. I would say she's probably an every hero in that she doesn't have a super awesome gift, which is a shame. But it's the fact that she doesn't have a gift that almost makes her super because everybody else does. So then we've got our mentor. Now, I would say the mentor is Bruno. Now, I know I said in the previous video, and if you want, check out the link above, but I know I said that the mentor needs to happen really early, and obviously we don't actually meet Bruno until the beginning of the 2nd act. But I feel that Bruno qualifies because we actually get introduced to him very early on. He's the 2nd character that Mirabel mentions, or 3rd character that Mirabel mentions in her song after her Tia Papa. We don't talk about Bruno. But then Luisa, after she meets with Mirabel and she says that, she's under so much pressure, she says to go to Bruno's room. And I think that is where Mirabel really crosses the threshold. She literally crosses the threshold, and the threshold guardian is the absence of Casita, in that when she crosses over into Bruno's room, Casita can't go with her. So for those reasons, I believe that Bruno is our mentor, and I would say that he is a counselor mentor. And next time, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. I'm going to break down the different kinds of mentors. There are 5 different kinds of mentors, and I say that Bruno is the 5th. He is the counselor mentor. And that is why it's so powerful that we don't meet him later on, because it is his presence or his lack of presence that really leads Mirabel onward. And it is the We Don't Talk About Bruno song that really brings us to the end of the 1st act. And off Mirabel goes to, again, cross another threshold into the wall to find Bruno. So allies. Well, we got so many allies, and that we've got so many different kinds of allies happening in this story. So there is her entire family are allies. They're also not allies. Especially Isabela feels like an antagonist. She feels like a sort of minor villain in that they don't get on. And but really everybody is an ally in that way that they go around, and it's just wonderful. And each one of them has strong, not only gifts, but struggles and depths to the character. I know that Camilo was meant to have this whole other arc, in that when the magic is gone, Camilo's appearance would change and no one would recognize him, so that he would so that even his image that he presents to the public is a shapeshift, isn't his true self, which is a absolute beautiful character development. But ultimately the creators decided that they needed to sacrifice his character development for Mirabella's in that moment, which was a wise decision. But I do love that sort of Easter egg, in that Camilo's joking exterior is masking something else. And in doing so, in telling us that, every single character in this story has an arc, has a struggle, has a fear, a misbelief about themselves, and a desire for something. We see that in Antonio, his arc is very short at the very beginning, in that he's scared that his door won't be there like Mirabella's wasn't, and he gets Mirabella to walk with him. And we see that pay off in the end when he walks with Mirabella to her door. And they have that moment. Luisa, obviously a very strong character arc, in that she's under all this pressure and she just needs to be able to be herself and relax and be more than her gift. Isabela, another really strong ally that has a great arc, and also might be our shapeshifter, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So we've got our hero, we've got our mentor, and we've got our allies, and we have so many allies in Encanto, and they're wonderful. But we also have the Herald. Now, the Herald doesn't need to be a character. The Herald is a catalyst of the story.
The Herald is a call to action. And speaking of call to action, if you like what you're seeing so far, don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. And if you want to dig even deeper, then head over to my Patreon account, where you can download all the workbooks, activities, and helpful hints that come from these videos. All right, let's hop back into it.
I would say the herald in this story are the cracks in the walls, and the vision that Mirabella gets at the end of her song when she realizes that the magic is in danger. That would be the herald of the story. So Casita acts as the herald, and also as I said, with the threshold guardian that we'll talk about later, the threshold guardian, Casita, is in that as well. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So then we have number 5, which is the trickster. Now the trickster is somebody who's there for fun. They sort of they kind of bring humor into the story. We've got several tricksters on this journey. Camilo is definitely one. He's definitely there for a good laugh and is super fun. And I think that he fits that trickster so well. He's definitely one of my favorite characters. Definitely a wonderful, wonderful trickster. Love Camilo. And like I said, he was supposed to have a stronger arc, which would have been amazing payoff for that character. And someday I want the sequel, which is Camilo's story, and go through that, because I mean, he's just such a great character. But happy with Mirabella's story for now. So our 6th character is the shapeshifter. Now obviously Camilo is a shapeshifter, but he is not the shapeshifter in this story. The shapeshifter in this sense is somebody that you think is a villain and it turns out to be an ally, or you think is an ally and turns out to be a villain. And with that, that's Isabela. Isabela is 100% the shapeshifter of the story, because I don't know about you, but when I was first watching it, the very first watch, I thought, I hate this per character. I really hate her. I was with Mirabella. She's just like so sweet and perfect. And what's so great about flowers? And I'm like totally with you, Mirabella. And then she makes the cactus, and I'm like, oh my goodness, she hates her persona as much as we do. And she became one of my favorite characters, and I love her. And I just love that Mirabella brings that out of her. It's just such a wonderful, wonderful moment in the story. All right, we're halfway there. Actually, more than halfway there. That's 6, so we've got 2 more left. So the Threshold Guardian, as I mentioned in Encanto, the Threshold Guardian in this story is the absence of Casita. When Mirabel has to literally cross the threshold into Bruno's room, and Casita can't help her, and she has to go by herself. And that is when she accepts the call and goes on, and she's all by herself. Because Mirabella's connection to Casita is pretty unique in the story. I feel that we don't see a lot of the other characters connect with Casita in the same way. They certainly don't converse with the same way. You think like, how do I save a miracle? And Casita kind of shrugs her shoulders, and I just love it. It's just great. They have a relationship, and I think it's a really wonderful thing. And so when Casita can't come with her and she has to go by herself, I think is a very, very strong point in the story, and definitely qualifies as the Threshold Guardian. And lastly, our shadow character, the villain. Now, Encanto is unique in Disney movies in that the villain isn't really a villain. The villain is fear, the same way it is in Frozen, except in Frozen we do have major antagonists along the way. Nobody is out to hurt anybody. I always say that one of the best things my mother ever told me as a child, one of the greatest motherly advices she gave me, was no one gets up in the morning and thinks, how can I hurt Joe today? Me. And this is it. No one in Encanto wakes up in the morning and thinks, how can I hurt Mirabel today? They're all thinking about themselves. And the one that is thinking about herself the most and hurting her family the most by her fear and her selfishness is the grandmother, is Abuela. I'm probably pronouncing this wrong. Spanish is not a native language for me. But Abuela is our shadow. She's our shadow. She's the shadow of Mirabel. Literally in the fact that Abuela doesn't have any magic powers either. But she's part of the family. She is the family. It is because of her prayer that we got the candle and we got the miracle in the first place. And it is because of Mirabella's hope that we get the miracle again in the end. And she is definitely the shadow of Mirabella, and just an absolute wonderful shadow character, because the shadow character doesn't always have to be an outright villain. It could just be a person who is not out for the same goals as our hero. And that is what makes it so wonderful. So those are your 8. Let's run through them again. We've got the hero, we've got the mentor, we've got the allies, we've got the herald, we've got the trickster and the shapeshifter, the threshold guardian, and the shadow character, the villain. Now, what I love about this is all of these characters, because we have to cross the threshold in Act 1, all of these characters arrive very early in the story. And in Encanto, we actually get a rundown of all of them in the opening song, because you don't want to just throw characters in to the story and create an ex machina. You know, like I need an antagonist here, so I'll create a new character. You want the characters to grow in the story. And if they don't belong in the beginning, then they probably don't belong. I mean, there are exceptions, but they likely don't belong. Think of Fight Club. All the characters in Fight Club, the main characters, we see in the ordinary world. We see Bob, we see Marla, and we see Tyler Durden, and we see the narrator's boss. We see all these characters in the ordinary world. Angel Face kind of shows up, but he still shows up in the beginning hook, or the very beginning of the first of the second act, right at that allies and villains time. We don't have a whole bunch of new characters coming later, and that is a really important point to make, that you don't need to populate your book with too many characters. Encanto could even be said to have too many characters. How many do we have? We have 9, 10 characters in Encanto. There's 10 members of the family. Plus we have the boyfriend whose name escapes me, and the little boy who drinks coffee. But and you could probably say the Casita. All right, so 13 characters in the book, in the story. And then you have like tertiary, really side characters, but you have those sort of characters that we follow through the story. And it feels crowded, doesn't it? It feels crowded. It's a crowded story with all those characters, but it works because of that first song where we introduce them all in hyperspeed. Speaking of hyperspeed, I have been told that I talk fast. If I talk fast, there is a setting. You can slow me down. Hit that little settings things and slow me down. I'm sorry. I get really excited about stories and I just ramp on. So if I'm talking too fast for you, please slow me down, replay, because this is good stuff. Hit that like and subscribe, and I will see you next time where we will break down the different kinds of mentors. Don't miss it. Keep writing.